everyone, in today's video we are checking out 3 new lenses from Sony. We have the G24 Millimeter f2.8, we have the G40 Millimeter f2.5, and the G50 Millimeter f2.5. And as you can see, these are all lightweight and compact lenses. So we will be doing some studio tests to test out the video functionality of these lenses, and we will also be going out on location to test out the photo quality. So I don't think that these lenses are meant to be replacing any current Sony lenses. I do believe that this is just a new lineup of compact lenses, and while you can use them on any Sony camera body from crop frame to full frame, I do believe that they heavily had the Sony A7C in mind while designing them. When you take a look at all 3 lenses together, they are all the same size and only vary in weight by 12 grams. I want to show you guys a quick comparison. The kit lens that came with the A7C is the same length when closed and larger when you open it to shoot. So in case you guys don't know, I absolutely love tiny lenses. I do love doing vlogging, I love doing travel photography, I love having a camera with me when I'm out and about to take random photos of things that happen, but I only like doing that stuff when I have a small setup. So tiny lenses are very important to me. I have used lots of them over the years as well. So in today's video, we'll have some interesting comparisons to share with you guys with both photo and video, with lenses from Samyang, Tamron, Sony, and even a Fujifilm lens, because I kind of feel like we're getting into Fujifilm territory with these new lenses. But the first thing that I want to talk about is the lens build and the ergonomics of these lenses. Each of these lenses have a solid build. The outside of the lens is aluminium and they feel premium, which you don't typically see in small lenses. One of the things I love the most is that they've added an aperture ring and you have an aperture click switch as well. You also have a focus ring, a focus mode switch, and a focus hold button, which you can change that shortcut to whatever your heart desires. So they've really jammed a lot into these compact lenses, and when you use these lenses on a camera like the A7C, for example, you're freeing up a lot of shortcut space in terms of the buttons on your actual camera. And I also want to show you guys a comparison between the 24 and the Sony 28 f2 in terms of build quality. The 28 f2 has no bells and whistles on it, it's literally just a focus ring. So as you can see, there's just so much more to these new G lenses. So then when you place these lenses on the Sony A7C, all of a sudden you have a super cute, aesthetic, stylish camera. It's like the perfect street photography camera, travel camera, and in terms of ergonomics, usually when I'm using the Sony A7C with my typical portrait lenses, my knuckles tend to hit into the lens as I'm shooting, which doesn't bother me, but I do know it does bother some people. So I'm excited to say that when you're holding the camera with these lenses, there is a nice little gap between your fingers and the lens, so you don't get to hit into it a lot while you're shooting. Because some of you guys don't believe that I have big hands, because I do, I also have Dan to demonstrate his grip on the camera as well. So let's get into actually using these lenses. The first one we have is the G24 Millimeter f2.8. Since this is a wide angle lens, I feel like this will be used for photo and video the most out of all 3 lenses. So let's start off with some autofocus tests that we did here in the studio. The autofocus on the 24 2.8 is lightning fast, and I felt like it didn't skip a beat during these tests. This lens has the potential to replace the G20 1.8, which is what I'm currently using for vlogging. So here is a lens size comparison between the two, and here is an autofocus test. As you can see, the G20 is quite a lot slower in autofocus performance, but I personally don't mind that for vlogging as it looks like a natural focus pull. I also love the f1.8 on the G20, however, this isn't important to a lot of people for vlogging and street photography, so this G24 could be a good option as it's also wide, great in performance, but much smaller, lighter, and cheaper. Since the Sony 28mm f2 is another lens that I've used for vlogging and travel photography, here is an autofocus test between both lenses. Unlike the G20, with these 2 lenses, we have similar autofocus performance. The G24 is still slightly faster than the 28, so you will have an edge with that, and the biggest difference you'll have is the additional controls on the lens itself. So now we'll head over to our photo shoot to check out the image quality and how these lenses perform out in the field. And I'm using all these lenses on the Sony A7C. So I'm going to start off with the 24 2.8. And I picked this location here as we've got beautiful splash of color with the flowers there in the background, and then also a little bit of the pink from the building too. And I'm gonna get a mid-length portrait here. And then I also wanted to try and get a shot with the trees in the background too. So if you could stand out, and I want to shoot from down up, so it's a bit of a weird angle. The 24mm performed really well while we were on location. The IAF was active the whole time and sticky on my model's eye, so it was really easy to shoot with. I really like the sharpness of this 24. Even though 24 isn't exactly a portrait lens, you still have a lot of clarity in these images. The bokeh to me looks really nice. However, when you zoom in, it's not the cleanest bokeh. It does have some texture to it. Can I get you sitting just here with the yellow flowers? Yeah, if you could get in as close as possible. I did notice a negligible amount of chromatic aberration in Lily's hair. I also have a comparison image for you guys with the G24 2.8 and the G20 1.8. Here is a comparison between the 24 and Sony 28. The 28 is sharp, however, it tends to miss focus on the eyes. And here is a comparison between the 24 and Tamron 24 2.8. The Tamron is inconsistent with sharpness. This full body shot is quite soft for Tamron, but sharp on the G24. So next up, we are taking a look at the G40mm f2.5, and I do find it interesting that they decided to go with a 40 for this trio of lenses instead of going for like the classic 24, 35, 50. I will have a focal length comparison for you guys to have a look at during this photo shoot as well, so we can see the differences between this 40 and 50. Again, the IAF was working really well during these portraits. I had no issues getting focus on Lily's eyes, even with her bangs. As you can see in the 100% unedited images, the final images are really sharp, and I love the skin texture and all the detail you can see. Got a lot more bokeh with the 40. Cool like that, and then if you kind of look to the side would look really cool too with your arms on your hips like that. The bokeh, just like the 24, looks really nice to me, but again, when you zoom in, it is still slightly textured. I'm also not sure if it's because of the wind in the trees, however, I did notice there is a small amount of swirl in the bokeh of some photos. Yeah, that looks cool. The 40 has some noticeable chromatic aberration in her hair when we were shooting with harsh backlight. Here I have a 40 versus Tamron 35 2.8, both these images are sharp. Here is the 40 against the Sony 35 1.8, again, nice sharpness on both images. And I also have a comparison with the Fujifilm 23 f2. As you can see, the Fuji is not as sharp, but it is half the price. Here is a video autofocus test with the 40 on the Sony A7C. I found that the autofocus, again, just like the 24, was super fast and just really snappy. It always glued itself to my face. Last but not least, we have the 50mm f2.5. Both the 40 and the 50 are built with 9 groups and 9 elements, and here we will be taking pretty much all the same photos we did on the 40, so I will put up both examples side by side for you guys to see. Yet again, the consistency is there with all three lenses. The IAF was great on the 50mm as well and kept focus on Lily's eyes, again, even with her bangs in the way of her eyes a lot of the time. The 50 had the least amount of chromatic aberration in the backlit shots. You have to really look for it to see it. And unlike the other two lenses, the bokeh in the 50 is a lot cleaner. And the final images are again really sharp and lots of texture and clarity, as you can see in the 100% unedited crops. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of comparison images to show you guys with this 50. The closest lens that I've used in the past that is in the same price range and in the same size range as well is the Sony 55mm f 1.8. So here's a side-by-side image of both lenses. And of course, we also have a studio autofocus test in video with the G50 2.5. Here I am walking around the studio so you can see how fast it focuses. Yet again, it's quite consistent with all three lenses. I feel like they're all super fast at focusing and they do a really good job at keeping track of me as I'm walking towards and away from the camera. The last thing I want to do is compare all the focal lengths to each other, especially the 40 and the 50, because they are quite similar. So I'm going to be standing, both Lily and I will be standing in one spot, and I'll take the same photo on all lenses. So for this one, if you want to just like pick a pose and hold on to that. Good, and then I'll change. I shouldn't have put them so far away. Yes, please. So next I've got the 40mm, and as you can see, we've actually got quite a lot more negative space. So we have the 24, which as you can see is a full body shot. And the last thing I want to compare is the bokeh between the 40 and the 50mm. So right now I have the 50 to check. And we've got a big tree in the far background, so I'm leaving a lot of negative space at the top of the frame so we can see the bokeh. So I'm switching over to the 40 and I'll get a couple of shots standing in the same spot as the 50. And then I'll get a shot where I'm framing the shot to look the same as the 50. So that is my review on these three new G lenses. I really hope you guys found that helpful with all the photo and video examples that I have to show you guys today. I feel like I don't really have any complaints overall with these lenses. They're really solid. I love the way they're made and I like the quality that comes out of them as well. For me personally, I think the G24 is the most interesting lens for me, as I usually like using tiny lenses for vlogging and travel photography, so I need to have something wide to be able to do that with. The 40 and the 50 would also be good options for street photography and travel photography. For me, as a portrait photographer, I don't think I would use those two lenses, as I usually like to have something faster because I love bokeh, but that is of course personal preference as well. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think of the review and the photos that we took down in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I make new videos every single week, so I'll see you all next time. Bye.